Before we get started, I just wanted to share a quick disclaimer. This podcast is based on my personal experiences and what I've lived through. Some episodes include difficult topics like trauma and abuse that may be triggering for some listeners. If you need support, I've included resources in the episode description. All stories are shared from my perspective, and names, identities, and specific details have been changed or removed to protect the privacy of those involved. Any resemblance to real people or events is purely coincidental. My goal is to help others feel seen, raise awareness, and remind anyone listening that they are not alone.
Hey, it's me. No masks, no bullshit, just truth. Last week, we dismantled one of the most damaging questions asked of survivors. Why didn't you leave? We talked about how leaving isn't the end of danger, it's often the beginning. And we exposed how the systems meant to protect us, from hospitals to police stations, can fail us and even put us back in harm's way. We laid bare the brutal reality that leaving is a risk, and it's a war that you fight in your own home. Today, I want to go even deeper. So we're going to talk about the hidden struggles that we face, and we're going to talk about what happens inside the rabbit hole. Because when you're living through trauma, it's not just your physical reality that gets broken. It's your brain, your body, and your entire fucking nervous system. And if we're going to heal, we have to understand the language of our own trauma. This isn't about being dramatic or too sensitive. It's about science. It's about biology. It's about understanding the invisible cage that gets built around you piece by piece. The one that keeps you trapped long after the physical danger is gone. The one that makes you feel insane, even when you know you're not. Here's the thing that most people don't realize. Trauma doesn't speak English. It doesn't communicate in a neat sentence or logical explanations. Trauma speaks through symptoms. It speaks through your heartbeat when it won't slow down, through your breath that won't come easy, or through the way that your mind races at night when all you want is silence. Trauma has its own language, and if we don't learn how to hear it, we start to believe the lie that we're broken beyond repair. I know I did. And why this conversation matters is because people say time heals all wounds, but they're leaving out the truth that time doesn't reset your nervous system. It doesn't erase body memory. Time doesn't automatically return your sense of safety either. Healing doesn't happen passively. It takes intention and it takes work. It takes learning how to decode the signals that your body's screaming at you. Signals that society has told us to ignore. So, in this episode, I'm not here to hand you a 10-step checklist to magically cure trauma. I'm just here to strip down what it really looks like and what it really feels like, and why survivors deserve to stop being told to just get over it. Because until we start speaking the language of trauma, we can't actually free ourselves from it. So let's start with the first survival skill that we learn: pretending. Because before your body even shuts down, before the trauma shows itself in symptoms, most of us master the performance of looking okay. You handled it so well, we hear quite often. But if only you knew. If only they knew that handling it so well wasn't strength or peace or even grace. It was survival. It was a performance. A costly, exhausting fucking performance that you give when you realize that nobody actually wants to see the truth. They want you to seem okay and they want you to look like you're moving on so you can give them just that. But it costs you everything inside. You learn to hide your pain in plain sight. You keep a smile in place and you keep your voice steady and you just keep showing up. Because every time you slip or every time you let your guard down, the judgment hits even harder every time. The whispers start up again. She's still with him, or she's not moving on, or why does she still act like that? And you learn it's just easier to pretend than to explain your pain to people who aren't ready or willing to listen. And the worst part, none of this was truly hidden. The exhaustions in your eyes, the way your body sags under the weight of it all, the way your laugh was a little too forced or fake, or the way you keep pausing mid-sentence, searching for words or forgetting them because you are just too tired to even think straight. It was all visible. But people just don't really want to see it. So we bury it. Because when people dismiss our pain enough times, it becomes easier to pretend than to explain. Every day becomes another round of pretending. Pretending that you're not falling apart. Pretending that you're fine. Pretending that you're not drowning. And maybe they admired it. Maybe they even told you how impressed they were with how strong you seemed or how gracefully you handled all of it. But what they didn't see was the aftermath. They didn't see you curled up at night, too wired to sleep, but too exhausted to move. They didn't hear the self-doubt screaming in your fucking mind. They didn't feel the weight of that fake smile slipping off as soon as you closed the door behind you. They saw composure, but you felt like you were barely hanging on. They saw strength, and you felt fragile. They saw grace, and you felt heavy. That's the part that nobody talks about. When you're told to get over it, you learn to stop showing how much it's breaking you. Your exhaustion becomes invisible, not because you've healed, but because you've performed it away. And that performance has a fucking price. It leaves you drained, disconnected from yourself, lonely in ways that words can't even explain. Because when you live in a world that praises how well you're handling it, you feel like you can't ever stop. You can't ever let that mask slip. You can't ever say, actually, I'm not okay. I'm really not. So you keep going. Every day feels heavier, and every day the space between who you really are and who you're pretending to be just grows wider. And here's what makes it even more brutal. The act of pretending doesn't just rob you of your authenticity in front of others, it robs you of intimacy with yourself. You start to forget where that mask ends, where your actual feelings begin. You start to gaslight yourself, convincing yourself that maybe you are fine, even when your body's screaming otherwise. You tell yourself that the exhaustion's normal, or the panic in your chest is just from stress, that the tears that you choke back in the car are just from a bad day. You start living in this split reality, one for the outside world and one for your inner world. And the gap between them, it becomes unbearable. Pretending has a cost, but it also becomes a skill you can't unlearn. You perform at work, you perform for your friends, you perform with family. You build an entire identity around being the one who is strong enough or stable enough, together enough. And the praise that you get for it, to us, like, it feels hollow because it's not you that they're admiring. It's a person you're pretending to be because underneath it, you're not okay. So it's like you're lying, but can't even admit it because nobody wants to listen. And it's like a silent punishment of surviving trauma in a culture that worships appearance. You become invisible by becoming exactly just what everybody else wants to see. But pretending, it only works for so long. You can only fake fine until your body decides it can't carry it anymore. And when that happens, it doesn't always look like it's an explosive thing. It's often looks like shutting down. I feel like a lot of people think PTSD is just flashbacks and nightmares. But what many of us live with, it's deeper, quieter, and it's harder to see. It's a constant state of overstimulation. It's emotional exhaustion. It's this low-grade rage that simmers like under your skin, and it starts before the day even starts, before you open your eyes. It's like crawling in your skin. It's waking up to messages or missed calls and feeling like you've already lost the fight before you even opened your eyes for the day. It's not about one dramatic event that happens that triggers you. It's about years of chaos, years of being ignored, invalidated, manipulated, forced to smile through all just to survive. And now that it's finally over, and I'll air quote that even though you don't see it, over, your body and mind are falling apart in slow motion. You can do all the work, the journaling, the therapy, meditation, and still feel like you're drowning when the storm hits. You can name it, reframe it, and still collapse from the weight of it. That's the part that nobody tells you. And that's why I think this piece is so important and why I want to share my story. Because you can heal and still be haunted. You can be stronger than ever and still be triggered by something that makes no sense until months later. This isn't weakness. It's what survival mode becomes when danger finally stops. But your body doesn't know how to stop surviving. Sometimes you'll go numb. Not sad, not tired. You just go gone. Like your body's there, but your mind has checked out completely. You'll sit on the couch and you'll stare at the wall or the floor, and hours pass before you even realize it. It's a nervous system shutdown, and you can't will yourself out of it. No pep talk, no to-do list, just silence, guilt, and a body that won't move. Even something as small as replying to a message or making a decision sometimes feels impossible. You're aware of what needs to get done, but it feels like there's a brick wall between you and the smallest action. And this isn't a conscious choice of rest. It's our nervous system collapsing under the weight of it's been holding for years. It's just, there's no control over it until you start to understand it. But even sometimes it'll still come back years later. And there's the body memories that just don't make sense. Even years later, your legs will start to shake, your stomach twist, you'll flinch at nothing. You'll get a rush of dread from a voice message or a smell, a phrase, and suddenly your whole system is on fire, but you don't even know why. Not being able to connect the dots, that makes you feel fucking crazy. You're not reacting to the present. What's happening is we're reliving something our brain won't show us, but our body refuses to forget. And even though we're stronger, and even though we can fight through it harder, it still breaks us sometimes, because healing doesn't erase that imprint. It just teaches us how to crawl out of the storm a little faster. And then there's the overthinking that never stops. Every message, every post, every text, you reread it 10 plus times. You'll spiral if somebody doesn't respond right away. You obsess over detail that just doesn't matter to anybody else. And it gets beyond frustrating. I don't know, that all of these details that matters to us, because it was the cost of getting that wrong. It used to be pain or judgment or silence or a huge fight. This isn't like a cute perfectionist quirk that we have. It's survival mode that we're stuck in. It's our nervous system trying to predict danger and avoid harm. Because our trauma taught us that the smallest things can explode into something bigger. We pay attention to all of it. Every emoji, every word choice, every pause. We anticipate problems before they happen because that used to be the only way we felt safe. And here's the part that many people will never see. This kind of shutdown, it doesn't look dramatic from the outside. To them, we're just tired, or we're just distracted, or we're just being lazy. But inside, our nervous system is fighting for its life. We're frozen in survival mode, body locked in a state that feels like quicksand. And when people dismiss it as overthinking or procrastination or laziness, it cuts even deeper, because we've already been fighting the shame of not being able to just do it. The shutdown, it's not a choice. It's basically our body's last defense when the system has been overloaded for so way too long. It's the silent aftermath of years of danger. And until people begin to understand that, survivors are going to keep blaming ourselves for what's actually biology. It's fucking science. And here's the part that makes healing even harder. Once you finally learn to honor your own limits and protect your energy with silence, people don't always respect it. And when your silence gets ignored or pushed against, it feels like the same violation all over again. I remember when I was in the thick beginning stages of my healing, I had to confront a new kind of trauma, a new violation. It was the emotional labor of setting boundaries. And the truth is, when you have CPTSD from emotional abuse, your silence isn't just silence. It's a fucking boundary. And for so long, it was a boundary that was violated for me again and again. And my quiet needed to be honored. I remembered a time when I first explained that I needed space and it was not respected. I went silent. I shut myself off to the world, and there's a handful of people that they kept continuously contacting me, and they would still call even when I'd gone quiet, still messaging me again and again, even when I hadn't engaged. And it wasn't just like a check-in, it was a constant daily, multiple times a day. And I was still expected to respond, just to be left alone. And what made it worse is that this didn't just affect how I felt about the people who kept reaching out. It affected how I showed up for people that I wanted to talk to, the people I cared about, the ones who did respect my energy and hold space for me without demanding a response. Because by the time I made it through that emotional spiral of overstimulation, I didn't have anything left. I was emotionally shut down, disconnected, and tired. And I hated that it kept me from giving energy to the people who actually made me feel safe, which caused me to continuously stay in a loop of spiraling, of hating that this was happening, and I had no control over it, it felt like. But when people continued to message or call me after I stopped responding, it didn't feel thoughtful. It felt violating. To my nervous system, it felt like the same thing I had already survived. It felt like I was being pulled into something I never agreed to all over again. It felt like my fucking boundaries didn't matter yet again. And I shouldn't have to keep explaining myself, especially when I explained myself from the beginning. And if I'm gonna say anything, I feel like let it be this. Our quiet doesn't need translation. It needs to be honored. What a lot of people don't understand or don't want to shift their perspective to see is that silence for survivors, it's not emptiness, it's protection. It's the space where we can breathe without defending ourselves. It's how we draw a line when words have already been used against us way too many times. When someone crosses that silence, when they decide that their need for a response is more important than our need for space, it echoes the same fucking dynamic that we fought so hard to escape from. It's somebody else deciding that we owe them. But here's the thing. Silence isn't easy for us. We are trained by trauma to respond, to keep the peace, to manage the moods of people around us so things don't explode. Stay connected even when it costs us. So when we finally choose silence, it's not laziness or avoidance or some passive aggressive tactic. It's the bravest thing we could fucking do. It's our nervous system finally saying no more. And that's why boundary violations, it hits so deeply, because they don't just inconvenience us, they fucking re-traumatize us. They drag us back into the feeling of being powerless all over again over our own needs. They convince us that our voice, our quiet, and our healing just don't matter. And for somebody crawling their way back to safety, that message is fucking devastating. Absolutely devastating. It broke me. And silence, it's not a void. It's not a punishment. It's not an invitation to push harder. Silence is sacred. It's where we rebuild. It's where we remember who the fuck we are without the constant pull of other people's demands. When that silence is respected, it becomes medicine. When it's violated, it becomes another fucking wound we have to heal from. Which is why we need lifelines. Because boundaries will get crossed and shutdown's gonna happen, and pretending it takes its toll. And in the middle of all of that, we still have to find ways to survive ourselves. So I just wanted to share a few tools that help to keep me here. Because surviving isn't just about what broke us. It's about what we did, piece by piece, to put ourselves back together. It's a little different. It's not a list of magic cures or quick fixes. It's a list of lifelines. It's the raw, messy, unpolished work that no one saw me do in the quiet. It's when I couldn't afford therapy, I turned to what I had. I started to meditate and do breath work. And in the moment, I didn't have health insurance. I was desperate. So I looked online and Google told me. And not even just Google. I feel like everywhere I looked was talking about meditating and breath work. And not in a million years would I ever think I could shut my brain off for anything. But doing just 10 minutes before bed in the darkest days, it gave me a way to calm my nervous system and not drown in my own head. It took a little bit of practice, but the 10 minutes turned to 15 minutes, and 15 minutes turned to 20 minutes, and now I meditate an hour in the morning and an hour at night. Sometimes I'll meditate for another hour randomly in the middle of the day. I explored chakra healing and energy work. It definitely wasn't polished. It was survival. I found that crystals and stones, it's just the ones that I was pulled to, it gave me something tangible to hold on to when everything else just felt shaky. So now I'm a weirdo that I sleep with rocks and I collect them. I found tapping, the EFT. It helps me interrupt the spirals, and it released that charge of triggers that lived in my body, not just in my mind. It would disrupt that full body vibration that I would feel. It would almost just stop the spiral in its tracks or lighten it. It didn't fix it, but it helped me in the moment. I started yoga, and I didn't start it as a trendy workout, but I did it as a way to reconnect with my body. After years of being disconnected from trauma, I felt like I was trapped in a body that wasn't mine anymore. So it was about rebuilding a relationship with a body that was a stranger to me. And my words, they became my lifeline. I started documenting the abuse and the timelines. I built systems and I was tracked it, and it was just proof that gave me back my sanity when gaslighting tried to take it away. I stopped silencing myself by writing it all out. That's why I did my blog and my posts. And that's what started my book. It's why I'm talking right now. It's my words became my rebellion, but they became mine. I found a deep spiritual pull at exploring things like astrology and numerology, and I found my grandmother's old books that reminded me that there's just more out there than pain. But the hardest and most romanticized part of my healing, hitting rock bottom and choosing to stay here, I don't romanticize this part. I hit terrifyingly dark places. But I did. I pushed through them for my kids and for me. Now it's for me. And even back then, I didn't think it was. I thought it was just for my kids. But now I know I want to live. I want to see life. I want to live. I've been surviving for years. I want to live. That choice, it's why I'm here. And I started creating safe spaces through my podcast, my blog, my book. I'm turning my story and my darkness into a place for others to feel less alone. And in that process, it healed me in ways that I don't know if I would have healed that, like those parts of me, without doing this. And that doesn't mean everybody needs to write a book or start a blog or have a podcast either. These are things that worked for me. They might not work for you. Some of them might not. I just wanted to share what I did in my quiet, in the quiet that nobody saw. When I was at my all-time lowest, mentally, physically, just drained. These are the things that helped ground me. Gardening and learning that I actually loved plants when I couldn't ever keep a houseplant alive. Now my room is like a jungle. The oxygen levels are great. And here's like the raw truth. None of these tools looked impressive from the outside to me. Like, nobody clapped for me when I sat in silence and forced myself to breathe through that panic. No one saw me sitting cross-legged on the floor with a crystal in my hand, begging for my body to calm down. Nobody's celebrating the small victories, like replying to one message or getting rid of a few of my text messages and unread text messages I'd been avoiding, or finally rolling out my yoga mat after weeks of shutting down. These weren't breakthroughs people post on Instagram. They were my own private acts of survival that stacked on top of each other until they began to look like and feel, not just look, but to me feel like I was more me and healing. As slow as it took, I look back now and to see how far I've come from intentionally taking those small steps is, there's no words. I don't have words for it. And not every tool worked every time. Some days meditation felt impossible. And even now, I'm human. And there's days I'll sit down to meditate. 2:22 on the clock. Just saw it. Sorry. I'll sit down to meditate now, and I just can't do it. I can't center myself, and there's just too much going on. I don't force it. I just wasn't meant to meditate right then and there. And some days yoga made me angry because my body, I was mad at my body because I wasn't connecting to it. And there's other days that writing, whether it's doing a Instagram post, a TikTok, or writing my blog, or when I was working on my book, or even the podcast, writing about it or touching on things, it brought up more pain than it released in that moment. Healing isn't a straight line. It's not one of these practices fixed me overnight, but they all gave me options. They gave me proof that even in the darkest moments, I had something I could reach for instead of collapsing into nothing. And if one of the outlets didn't work, I had another one. Instead of relying and putting all my eggs into one healing basket, that one thing had to heal all of me, I reached out and found all different things. Somatic yoga. I got knowledge with trauma-informed yoga. Trauma-informed coaching, just to understand it. And every breath and every page and every moment of silence I fought for, it was me taking my control back little by little. And that's what these lifelines are. They're not cures. They're reclamations. Each one reminded me that even when the wreckage felt overwhelming, there were still pieces worth holding on to. And when you stack enough of those pieces together, you begin to rebuild, not the old version of yourself, but the new one who refuses to fucking disappear. And healing, it's not just about us. It's also about the people around us, the ones watching, confused or unsure of how to help. And now I want to speak to you guys for a minute. Maybe you're listening to this and you haven't lived through it yourself, or maybe you're watching somebody you love fall into this right now. Or you're just trying to understand why a friend seemed to have pulled away, or to have the knowledge for your kids in the future. This part's for you, because the truth is, survivors don't just endure abuse. We endure invalidation that follows. We learn not just how to survive the abuser, but how to survive a world that refuses to understand it. We're exhausted from having to translate our pain into something palpable. So if you're someone watching from the outside, the next time you're tempted to tell somebody that they're handling it so well, I invite you to pause, look deeper, and ask how they really are. But when you do that, be ready to listen. Be ready to sit with their discomfort instead of your own for what you're listening to. And let me repeat that one more time. You need to be ready to listen and be ready to sit with their discomfort instead of your own for hearing what they are saying. And if you're that one person who keeps reaching out to a friend who has gone quiet, this is for you. Your discomfort with their silence, it's not an invitation to demand their attention. It's a chance to take a step back, not in anger, but in respect. If you truly want to support them, believe them when they say that they need space. Honor their quiet. Because when you keep pushing and calling, texting and questioning or dismissing what they've already said, you're not supporting them. You're reenacting the exact dynamic that they are still trying to heal from. And here's what matters most. Support is not about what makes you feel better. It's about what makes them feel safe. And sometimes that means doing less, not more. It means resisting the urge to fix it, to give advice, to get a response, or to pull them back to connection before they're ready. Safety isn't created by pressure. It's created by respect. And if you're unsure of what you can do, don't assume, ask. Ask in a way that doesn't demand an immediate reply. I'm here if you want to talk, no pressure. Or, I respect your space and just wanted you to know I'm thinking of you. That kind of message lands completely differently. It tells us, I see you, I'm not going anywhere, and I won't push. And when you have that privilege of sitting with someone's truth, listening without interpretation or interrupting or interpreting it, like I just said that really weird, interpreting the way you want to hear it, if you don't rush to relate with your own story and don't minimize it by saying at least or it could have been worse. Don't offer solutions unless they ask. Just sit there. Be with them in their emotions. Let their truth be heavy because it is. Because for many of us survivors, no one has ever done that. I know I've never gotten that. No one has ever simply held up my story or most survivors' story without trying to reshape it into something more comfortable or dismissing it. And last, believe them. Even if their story doesn't make sense to you, even if you don't understand why they stayed or why they went back or why they're struggling now that it's over, just believe them, because nothing is more damaging than surviving hell only to have your reality denied by the people you thought you could trust. Your role isn't to understand every detail of trauma. It's to create a space for us survivors where we don't have to prove ourselves, explain ourselves, or just fight for our right to heal. And I feel like we're always having to fight for our own way to heal our own way. Like, that's what support looks like, is giving a survivor space to be in their emotions, to believe them, and give them a safe space to land and not have to prove themselves. And if you're somebody who's living this, if every single word that I've said feels like your own reflection, then this part is for you. This is the part that I want you to hold on to, no matter how heavy it gets. If you're living this too, you're not overreacting. You're not too sensitive. You're not broken. You're a human being who has lived through way too much without enough safety, support, or space to fall apart. Your mind learned to survive in ways that don't always make sense to others. Your body learned to expect pain. Your heart learned to scan for abandonment before it even happens. And none of that makes you weak. You're someone who learned how to keep going with wounds nobody could see. And now that the chaos is quiet, those wounds are speaking louder than fucking ever. Not because you're failing, but because it's finally safe enough for you to feel it. That's the part that people just don't talk about. Healing doesn't always feel like freedom at first. Sometimes it feels like grief or confusion, or like your whole entire fucking identity is just unraveling. You've made it through the war, but now you're sitting with the wreckage. And rebuilding, it takes time, energy, and it kind of self-love that nobody ever taught you how to give yourself. You're doing the work, even on the days that you feel like you're drowning in it. And that matters, even if nobody sees it but you. You've already lived the answers, and you don't owe the world a defense of your survival. You owe yourself the freedom to finally live without shame. Here's a hopeful truth, and that it gets lost in the heaviness. It really does. You're not permanently defined by what was done to you. Yes, trauma rewires your brain. Yes, it left mark on your nervous system, but just as those changes were wired into you, new ones can be rebuilt. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change, it means your story doesn't end with damage. It means your brain is still capable of learning safety, of holding peace, and of experiencing joy without the fear attached to it. And even if that feels impossible right now, think about this. You've already survived things that once felt impossible. You've already lived through nights where you swore you wouldn't make it till morning. And mornings where you swore you weren't gonna get through the day. But you did. That proof fucking matters. That's evidence of strength that doesn't always feel like strength in the moment. And you should be fucking proud of yourself. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of my own self. I feel like we don't recognize our own strength in this healing process, and we need to give ourselves grace. Healing isn't glamorous. It's not linear. It's not a perfect sequence of breakthroughs. It's different for everybody. It's messy. It's fucking frustrating. It's exhausting, but it's also proof that you are still alive. That somewhere inside you, even in your darkest moments, there is a will to keep going. That will is worth honoring. And here's what I want you to really hold on to. You don't have to become a version of healing that looks perfect for anybody else. You don't have to smile through it. You don't have to rush through it or explain it in ways that make other people fucking comfortable. You just have to keep choosing yourself over and over, in small ways, in quiet ways, even when nobody notices. Because eventually, all of those small choices build a new foundation. Eventually, the cracks that the trauma left begin to fill with something stronger than before. And eventually, you will wake up one day and realize the weight has shifted. Not because it's gone, but because you've grown strong enough to carry it differently. That's hope. Not in a shallow, everything happens for a reason way, but in a grounded truth that healing is possible. Not because the pain disappears, because it doesn't, but because you learn how to live fully even when it fucking echoes. You're not broken beyond repair. You're proof that survival is possible. And proof that rebuilding is too. Take what you need, leave what you don't. And remember, healing grows where compassion lives, not where judgment lingers.